Hello, everybody. Okie dokies. Here we go. Let's off and running. We'll do the usual checking, making sure that my video is good so I can see my video is good to go. I'm watching that as always on my other computer to make sure we've got everything working there. And then making sure my audio sounds good. So let me get that chat so I can see. Mr. James Powell, how's it going? Morph, going good. Thank you for asking. You guys can hear me all right? Can I just get the official thumbs up or audio check for me to make sure we are good to go? Okay, audio's good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hey, Alex, welcome. Welcome as always. So, we're going to be doing again another, I think the last time I streamed, we did a live Ask ZBrush. It went really well with us all. You guys were able to ask questions, and I had some pre-made questions that have already been sent in to us or myself emailed to me. So I want to do that today. Actually, I want to go through some more questions, and I want to show something that's obviously new as well for you guys and cover that. And then, in fact, I want to cover that feature as well because I think it's a pretty awesome feature that can be used in many different ways. So I want to cover that, and that's in essence showing you guys how to make your own chisel / VDM brushes because we added a capability to them in 2021.6.6. So if you don't know, we got another patch that came out. And it's all blending together for me now with the releases of the updates of ZBrush Core and our new ZBrush Core Mini update as well. I want to say maybe a week and a half ago. So if you haven't updated to ZBrush 2021.6.6, what I'm about to start this stream with, you're going to want to update to that to be able to do what I'm going to show. Alex, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. All right. So, and then as always, when you guys have any questions, by all means, I'm always watching the chat, so fire away. And then it always, as you guys all know, leads to, you know where I always go down. I always go down tangents, right? So that's what this stream's really going to be about, is us just covering settings for you all. Okay? So I want to first cover the new addition to the abilities with the VDM brushes. So number one, we've added some more chisel brushes. Okay, in this update, in this patch. Okay, so there are now, these are the brushes I'm talking about right here, these, what we call chisel brushes, right? So there's now a chisel organic and a chisel shapes, which the chisel shapes could also be very nice for some hard surface stuff. I've used that pretty well with that and found some great workflows for that, or just blocking out like a nice character, cartoony style character. So the numbers that you see in the top right corner are the number of meshes per se that are in the brush. Okay, so these, for you guys have never used these brushes, I'm going to just start with the Chisel 3D. All right, and then let's just go with a sphere and let's throw that into a Dynamesh mode. And you guys can see, excuse me, my mouse clicks that I'm doing over here. So I got that program running for you as well. So if I'm going too fast to see those clicks still, please let me know. So the benefit of these brushes is they're a 3D alpha in essence, but really they're vector displacement meshes. So these meshes are actually inside the brushes, right? So this is going to allow us to quickly, I need an ear, right? So there you go. There's an ear. And then just start grabbing other things. I need a nose. And the difference between these brushes and saying just pulling out an alpha is these brushes have undercutting, which for those that don't know is stuff like this. Like this has obviously got a little bit of cavity in it, and then this whole part of the nose is an undercut, right? And the same thing with the ear. All this space here is an undercut, right? So this is allowing me to deform the mesh. Good afternoon, John. Instead of just, if you grab an alpha, you're just going to get stretched geometry through here, right? So that's what these brushes are allowing us to do. They're allowing us to have some shapes already at our disposal here. So i.e. one of the new ones, our Chisel Organic. It's got a ton of new noses, eyes. It's got things like scales in it. It's got full on some faces that you can start with, right? There's a lot in here now. So you just click and drag through. There's a lot of different eyes. So we can make a pretty wacky, strange, or cool character pretty fast by literally just using this brush, right? And then there's like a little bit of a gorilla nose, or here's like an animal bat nose that I found that was really cool. So you can see really fast, we can start creating a very cool, crazy character with these brushes. There's a lot of fun. There's a rabbit nose, right? So there's a bunch of stuff in this particular brush. And then, of course, like I said, we've also got the chisel shapes, which is just a geometrical shapes in essence, right? But you could do a lot of different stuff. Like maybe these are going to be some kind of spikes that I'm going to put on the character, right? And then I can control these a little bit as well. In a sense, what I mean by control, right now, this is putting what I see in this image right now. The full spike is there, right? If I drop my Z intensity a little bit, I won't get the full thing. So you can see this can create a very different style looking spike instead of this one, right? So what's been added for these is these brushes are in essence deforming the existing mesh, right? So if we look at this sphere, it's just a sphere, plain old sphere with the poles. I'm not a big fan of these poles, right? So that they're just deforming the mesh, right? So now that I have this on, let's switch to like find something. Let's switch to this organic again. Let's find something a little more extreme, like something like this, right? So when I pull on this, you can see it's just pulling the geometry and in essence making the existing geometry they have to, I don't want to say distort, but sculpt to the actual shape that I'm selected here, right? So it's just pulling on that geometry and making it match whatever I have selected, okay? Which is great. Like obviously we can divide up more and more and more, right? This is sitting only at 130,000 polygons. So the more I divide up, right, the quality of the stroke is just going to improve. And what I mean by quality, I mean the detailing of the stroke is just going to also be able to be improved because there's just more information there to use, right? To give us what's in that brush. So what we've added the ability to do now, so I'm just going to actually, I'm going to go even lower. I'm going to keep it at that 130, even 32. Let's even keep it pretty low. Let's keep it at 32,000 polygons, which isn't too crazy. And now, if I was to grab layer, let's start with this, and I grab this animal beak, right? You can see it's, yeah, cool. We got a beak. It's got a little bit of a pushing in on the surface, right? That's more of that undercut ability, okay? So the problem you might have is because of what I'm doing here, you can see now the topology, how stretched it's being with this particular shape, right? It's getting pretty stretched. So what we've added now is the ability to use Sculptris Pro. So now, when you guys do this, we're going to dynamically tessellate as you're actually pulling on the surface. So you can see that's with Sculptris Pro on. Let's go ahead and turn that off now. Okay, and let me make sure my touch is off. And see the difference that when I'm pulling them out, you can clearly see the difference now here. So this has been a nice addition. I know there's a lot of artists, and some of you might be in here, that like to use Sculptris Pro just to start sculpting out, and especially maybe in the beginning. And I know there are artists that even use it just to go full on sculpt, like their whole character or whatever they're working on. So this is just now another addition for us to allow grabbing particular any kind of shapes and making something. So then going back to me, you know, thinking about this, the ability now that I have, I can say, oh, let's just start with a Dynamesh sphere, right? We can now have like a combination here of the two worlds as well, what I like to bring together, which is that Dynamesh world and that Sculptris Pro world, and they come together. They're married. Let's let's bring it together. Okay? So I can turn Sculptris Pro on, right? And then now I can say, let's just make some kind of new character, right? And then now I just grab maybe a move brush and just really start conforming, make some kind of creature head. So I want something like this. Okay, it's gonna go like that. It's gonna have like some crazy little forehead thing. I'm gonna put the eyes way down here, and then boom, right? And then because I have Sculptris Pro on, when I'm smoothing, it's also dynamically tessellating at the same time. Okay, so this can be a very beneficial thing for me. I'm going to say, okay, that. Now, I want to say put like a neck in. I want to put some eyes in, things like that. This is where now these brushes come into play for us. So like grabbing this chisel shape, I can just even grab, say, this cylinder shape here, come back here and say, okay, this is going to be where I put a neck piece starting to come into play, right? And then now you can see we're dynamically tessellating, okay, looking at this. All right. So, John, we'll try to keep up as much as we can. All right, John, you stick with us, John. We can always, I get loud and obnoxious. So, look up here is always going to come around and wake you up, too. So, you can see the tessellation that we're having here. Okay. And that tessellation is actually being controlled by me. I'm telling ZBrush how much tessellation I want to have when I'm drawing this out. And what's controlling that is the draw size. So if I go with a smaller draw size here, right, and I start pulling on that, you can see that cylinder, right, that I'm getting now has more tessellation. In essence, it's holding that cylinder, okay? Right? So if I want a little bit longer of a neck, I would go find a shape like this maybe, and then now just put that in there and get a little bit of different look. And then I go bigger, and then I can see smooth things out. And now I'm doing like a combination here of things like I can still re-Dynamesh it, and then now Sculptris Pro it, right? So I've got a lot of ways to work here. And then I can say, okay, now let's give them some eyes. So we'll switch to that organic. I don't know what type of eyes I want. So there's a lot of different eyes that we have now throughout here, right? There's a couple different ones in here. So, you can start doing an eye like this if you want. Start very more human, animal. I'm more human, alien, starting to look like alien-like, right? So, and then John, yeah, absolutely. The question John's asking, can these be used in hard surface? Yeah, 100%. 100% they can be used in hard surface, right? So you can change any eyes up. But what I also like about this, and I'm going to show you, John, in a second here, hard surface, is when you guys are doing this and you guys are experimenting, right? Like right now, I'm just clicking one and then undoing, right, to figure out what eye I like. I like this eye for this character right now. That's the eye I like for this character. What's beautiful about me combining like re-Dynameshing, but then still being in Sculptris Pro mode, is I can use this as a way to also like erase what I didn't want. 20 and 20 saying he's calling for the Lisa needs braces moment. I'll pull up the graphic for you. 2 and 20 because you're asking for it. So, Chris, so yes, to answer your question, your draw size up is less tessellation. Draw size down is more tessellation. Yes, 100%. So because of what you're also bringing up, this is what I also like about this, right? Let's say, okay, I like these eyes. Let me go find something else now. Whatever, it's going to have some kind of fin thing on here, right? And then I change my mind maybe, right? And I've already drawn out 2 of them. Of course, I can undo, but the beauty now of us also still being in Sculptris Pro mode, I can literally smooth these down to pretty much nothing again, right? And that's going to be dependent upon my draw size, okay? Because we are dynamically tessellating. So if I go a little bit bigger draw size, you're going to see just, boom, get rid of that, and then just see, boom, get rid of that, and now continue on going, okay, that didn't work for me. Let me continue on now. So even down the pipeline where you've maybe the next day you go look at the monitor and you go, ooh, what was I thinking? What was I doing? Happens to me every time I sculpt, man. I can't help it but go, oh, what on earth was I thinking when I did that? Right? So even doing stuff like this, right? We can go back, even though it's got all this ability. The higher you put your brush size, right, the more dynamic tessellation you're going to get for polygon size. And then we can just start smoothing out this surface in essence and just quickly getting it back to the surface that it was before, so that I can then continue on then going, that didn't work for me. You know, and I had to draw a bunch of strokes to figure it out. Right? So this is what's beautiful now about having the ability to use these chisel vector displacement brushes now with Sculptris Pro. This is like a new workflow in essence for us all. Okay? You're going to, I'm going to copy that alien creature. By all means, you want to, right? And then this is where we have fun. There's a bunch of, and the beauty of this is, I don't see about also just using these to quickly, like, get me the final result, even though you guys could, right? Let's put a mouse, that's interesting. Right? And then this is the beauty of it, is experimenting with different things, right? There's, maybe a mouth like this would be interesting. Something like this could be interesting to put there. I don't know what the heck that is, right? And then, or maybe some teeth. So let's go with a better, smaller brush size and maybe go with something like this, right? So this is starting to get me where I'm like, oh, I can see where I'm going now with this. They're starting to come to life. So you got to think about these brushes not just giving me the mesh, but giving me a start. Those little happy little mistakes that we make, right? Maybe I'm going to do a little bit of human ear up here, but not like a full on human ear. It's got a human ear part to it, and maybe play with that, right? And hold the Alt key, because then you get an opposite. See, like that fitting a little bit better to where I'm trying to go with this creation. And now you come through, and then we start sculpting, right? I put a little bit of dynamic, maybe highlight that edge a little bit more, and I'm transitioning right into, I've already got Sculptris Pro on, so I'm just transitioning into me, starting to really see this character that is in my head right now just come to life, right? And then I still got the ability to Dynamesh, okay? And there you go. Yeah, you want this as a free asset? Sure. What do you want me to go back? What version of this silly thing do you want? Yeah, absolutely. I'll put this up for you. Yeah, we can put it up right now. I can put it up as, so you just want, say, this one, so you guys can have some fun with it. Well, I see some kind of gears or some gills or some kind of thing happening here. Have some fun with the mouth. Maybe. What if I threw? I like this in here. We got not that one. I want a mouth that also has a mouth sac in it, which this brush has one in it. There it is. Okay, and then maybe it's human, but I think it looks too much like a fish now when I do that. That looks ridiculously funny, right? So, okay, sure, you want just this one? Let me put this version up for you. In fact, let me put it right now. I'm going to do it right now for you, okay? So is everyone a ZBrush user in here, or do we have ZBrush Core people and ZBrush Core Mini people in here? Because what I'll do is I'm actually going to save this out for, so let me do a file. I'm going to do a project save, but I'm not going to do a ZPR. I'll do a GIF. That way you all can have it. Here, let me call this. I'm gonna call this Paul's Crazy Alien. Paul's Crazy Alien. Perfect. Okay. I should have paid attention where I saved that. I didn't even pay attention where I saved that. I'm gonna guess it's let's see. Is this where I saved it? No. Okay, let me save it again, because I don't know where I actually saved it. Okay, files for sure. I got it now. All right, and then now let me post that right now. Let me grab ZBrush Central. I'll post it on ZBrush Central so you can go get it right now during the stream. Okay. And again, I encourage you all to keep firing away this kind of stuff and ask me questions, right? So I'm gonna post it in the mini. I'm gonna post it in here, our community expo right here. So let me put it up there right now for you. So let me reply. Crazy alien. My stream. Yeah, let me capitalize that M. Make a very aggressive stream. And my stream. All right, and then let me now just grab it for you all. Let's see, files for stream. Here you go. Boom. There, it's uploaded. Reply. Okay, there you go. So let me put this now in here. And in fact, here I can give you also. Let me give you the link to this exact post. Okay, so you guys can have that. Let me get back into the chat. There you go. There you go. That way, if you guys are in ZBrush Core, ZBrush Core Mini, or ZBrush, you guys should all be able to load that file, no matter what version of ZBrush you're in. And then all three versions have this ability with these brushes. We've just updated all three to give this ability now. Okay? So there you go. So there's the file for you. Okay, hold on. I'm just catching up now on why I was doing all that. Okay, so Mark, you came into the question about what we were doing here. Hold on. Okay, so I'm just catching up with the chat because you guys were chatting while I was doing that. Okay, so Mark on Facebook, Mark Gavin, or Gavan. The resolution of the tool depends. The resolution of the tool depend of the base resolution of the mesh. Yeah, well, that's all coming into play, but now it's not really important as much because now you can use Sculptris Pro, right? So Sculptris Pro is adding resolution as I'm sculpting, right? So when I grab any one of these things, it is dynamically tessellating, right? So again, if I go smaller brush size, obviously I'm going to get more tessellation on this, okay? So it's a yes and like that ear actually looks interesting. Looks interesting on this character, right? So to answer that question, it's a yes and no. You don't need to have really high tessellation now or high resolution to do it because we're just going to add it for you, okay? So, okay, Morphia, you were like, hey, John, I've been hibernating. What history recall video? Okay, so you're asking them something. Yes, and this GIF is the GIF I just uploaded there for you guys that has the link. That's got the actual physical model in it. This is our own GIF, right? So we have a 3D image that we created that you can save out GIFs and PNGs out of ZBrush and share them with everybody that you want to. And the actual 3D model will be in that GIF and that PNG to answer your question. Okay? Hold on, I'm catching up right now. All right. And just okay. Oh, okay. Relying on his video. Okay. Could be a little Green Lantern. Could be. It is. I see a little Green Lantern there. Okay. All right. So moving on now. Okay. So that's something new that we've done again in the updates that we've done for ZBrush Core Mini, ZBrush Core, and ZBrush. So if you guys, whatever version you're in, you'll want to update to the newest version to get this. So I'm in full version ZBrush, which we're at version now 2021.6.6, which is also the same for Core. But Mini is at a different version now. It's at 0.5. Our brushes with body parts really awesome. Yeah, there's actually brushes with body parts already. In fact, let's do this. That's kind of what this stream's about. Okay, is this Justin, to your question about the summit? I can't say right now, but all I can say is keep an eye on our social medias, our web pages. There'll be, when we announce it, we'll be announcing it through all those. But I couldn't say right now what is happening for the 2021 summit. Okay. So since you just asked that about brushes with different body parts, here's another feature I think that's really awesome. It can be very beneficial organically or even hard surface. All right. So I'm going to grab an insert mesh brush. I'm going to grab one that's actually called IMM parts, which is it's body parts in essence. There's hands in here. There's feet in here. And these are insert mesh brushes. Okay. So these have like, yes, how are you doing? It's modern art, baby. I'm making something, making my own NFTs here. Right. So this has that ability. Let me actually, I've right now got my cloth brush. Let me switch to my transpose. Okay. Has body parts. Now, you'll notice something unique about every one of these. Okay. And I'm just going to delete that alien now. Is they all have an opening, right? There's a hole in most of these. So as I cycle through them, you can see there's arms, there's legs, there's dog parts, the dog head. Okay. And then there's these two meshes in the beginning, which are just in essence a male torso and a female torso, right? So this is just a quick way for you to start something, right? So why I'm bringing this brush up is because you asked about it. Is you can see, first of all, my topology is nice and good topology. This is from ZRemesher, okay? And Panned Labyrinth. Yes, 2 and 20. Perfect. I like it. And now what we're going to be able to do with these is have a little bit of fun, i.e., let's put the dog head on this, right? So I would look from the top because the way this dog head is drawing out, it's drawing out from the top of the dog. So if I want to put this up here, I probably would do that. I would draw this out and say, okay, I want that dog head to go there. Right? And then I can kind of reposition it and move it around a little bit. Maybe do something like this. Hold on. Sorry, had to sneeze. Okay, so what's happening is when I drew out that dog head, it's masking off my female torso, which is allowing me to move the dog head around. And I want to clear my mask, and I want to do it. I want to clear it again. Okay, but I don't want to have Dynamesh on when I do this. And then boom, what we get is now ZBrush has welded and merged those 2 points together. So here, let me turn off Sculptris Pro for now too. So this is all welded. So now you can have, oh man, you talk about modern art. This is some modern art we're having in here, right? So this is allowing me to draw out the mesh, right? And very Egyptian. Good call. You guys are on fire today. Okay. So this is allowing me to draw out the head, and then we are welding everything together for you and bridging. So this orange polygroup, ZBrush did that for me, right? I drew this out and I already had the body. So like if I grab something else, let's say like, I don't know, let's put some male arms on this and let's make them be a little weird. Something like, I don't know, like this. And then bing, yes. I'm here to pub you up. I am the dog man. Right? So this is welding. So what's happening here is there's rules popping into place now that's making this happen. But if you guys got to start thinking now how quickly you go here, make something like this, kick out a quick base mesh, switch those to those VDM brushes now, which are our chisel brushes, with Sculptris Pro or not with Sculptris Pro. Okay? That is all over the place, right? That was my Arnold. I'm here to pub you up, you beautiful little people. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so the rule is, okay, let me do it with something different so you can visually see it a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to grab this IMM Primitives H that has like the H on it. Or the Cookie Monster, yes. And these are just shapes, okay? But they have an opening, right? They're not a completely closed, tight, watertight surface, right? So, in fact, here, you know what? Let me put some more light on me. Yeah, there we go. I just realized I didn't have my other light on. Let's light me up, baby. Okay, so when you click and drag And you do what you do with the Dynamesh, which is hold control, click and clear that mask, and do it again. ZBrush actually is welding these. So I can even say, we can do something like, you know, I can just make a quick poly group, okay, like this. And then I can even hold the Alt key, and now that's sitting inside the mesh. Do the same thing, and then you can see what I get. So you can see this, how this could work hard surface, right? This could be a cool way to make something like that happen. And the benefit here over something like a Dynamesh is we're not changing any of our other topology, right? The only topology that's changing is the new topology that was needed to be made to weld the spherical shape and the body shape. Okay? So, what's happening here is the polygroup that I'm drawing on is being triggered as going to be deleted. And because I have an opening surface that I'm drawing on. So here's the two things you have to make sure you remember. And guys, this is so easy to make. You can make any one of these brushes. You just have to make an insert mesh brush that has a hole in the surface, right? So now this has got a hole. Because I drew on that particular polygroup, when I clear my mask and I do it again, ZBrush knows, oh, I'm going to delete that blue one and then go. So like, if we go with something here, let's go with something really strange. Like, let's just go with the dog, right? And let's even just slice across so we get a new polygroup. Slice curve. Let's go across like this, right? So this has got a new polygroup. And if I'm here and I'm looking at this dog and now I go, oh, okie dokie, let's draw this shape. It's got this crazy dome thing, right? And then, boom. So, yes, Dr. Depresso has jumped in for you guys. This is called Mesh Fusion, is what, when we originally rolled it out, I always phrased it, we phrased it as a lot as Mesh Fusion, because it's fusing two meshes together. And the idea here is this is getting, in essence, this is deleting, and then we're welding everything for you across. Okay? So the way back to that person who was asking about body parts and everything else, this is, okay, to do that. Okay? So, DiceK's also updated my alien head for you guys as well. So it'll load in ZBrush Core Mini as well. All right, so there's answering, okay, the question. Okay? This is not a new feature. No. This is old. In fact, this feature's, oh, if I have to remember, I would say, oh my God, this feature's like almost 8 years old. Probably almost 9, almost 10 maybe. I want to say we did this in 4R2 or 4. I want to say 4R3. And that was like 10 years ago. It's not 3.1. No. Okay, so what would be good idea to mesh different parts of hard surface meshing instead of Dynameshing? Alex, I'm a big more component. If I'm especially when I'm doing hard surface, I don't use Dynamesh anymore really as much. I use Dynamesh now really what it was made for. Dynamesh was really its power and its goal was what I've just started doing today. Like, I don't know where I'm going with this character. So Dynamesh just allowed me to just freely start making something and go at it. Okay? So this Dynameshing ability with hard surface is nice for sure, and it's a great way to work. But I prefer myself using live booleans. But to your question, like if we do something like this, right, and let's just divide this up a little bit so there's just a bit more topology in here. Thinking now what we have with even these chisel shapes, right? You got to think about this. I've got now, I can turn on Sculptris Pro. I can grab, say, something like this, right? And then now I want to put a indentation of a cylinder, right? Boom, right? I can get shapes like that. And then my intensity's down, so I can turn my intensity up. And then hold Alt, and then see you can get like a shape like that really fast, right? And then if you put it up here, right, this is can go across the surface like that, right? And then now we're getting something like this, or maybe I sculpt at the top instead, and now we get something like that, right? There's a lot of ways now for us to start. Maybe you do something like this, and then maybe I want to do a negative push in now, something like that. Right? There's so many things now that we can start doing, and then grabbing like a spherical shape and right, start going at this to do a lot of different things. Yes, so for the mesh fusion question, you have to have a polygroup, right? So that mesh fusion, it's looking for a polygroup. So again, if I go back to these IMM primitives H, you just need a, even if I just do this, right, at the top, do something like this, as long as that, here, let's make a better polygroup than that. Let's just mask it off like this. Okay, this polygroup now, I can turn it into like a cube. I draw on it, and then I just do this and see it's welded. And everything's good to go. And you can see in this case, the cube was so low in polygons compared to the mesh that I'm drawing on that this got divided up to match the underlining surface that I'm actually drawing on. You only need one polygroup. You want one. You want to, yeah, well, in essence, two, I guess your question, yeah, you need at least two polygroups, right? Because if I do it on this, you're going to create some modern art because it's trying to delete what doesn't know, like, well, you're trying to delete the whole cylinder. If I delete the whole cylinder, there's nothing to fuse with. Okay. Now, with that said, if think about it in this sense too, let's divide this up just so we have some more topology. Okay. And let's do something like this and like, let's say this. Okay. And make that new polygroups. And now I say, let's grab a ring. All right. And let's go to my initialize. And I'm going to put my coverage at 180. Do something like that. I definitely don't need this much topology. It's a little much. Spans this way, and then let's go maybe 12 this way. Yeah, we'll go 16. We'll go 16 and 16. Okay. And I'm going to make this a mesh now. And now what I'm going to do is switch to ZModeler. And this right here, I'm going to say delete flat island. Delete this and delete this. So what I've done here is now I've created a surface that has a hole, but not just one hole. It's got two holes, right? So using this to my benefit now with this mesh fusion idea, okay, I can now look at this, right? And this is how I want to pick up the surface. So let's just add it to my existing brush that we've been playing with, this primitives one. I'm just going to say B. Okay, and you guys aren't going to be able to see it because I put my resolution so big. Okay, it's right here, create insert mesh brush. But you guys can go here to brush and create insert mesh brush, right? You can go this route or you can say from mesh. And then it automatically adds it. So now I'm drawing out with this. And now the benefit of this, we go back to this just beautiful modern art. Just gorgeous. Okay. To your question, this mesh has now got a lot of polygroups. Okay. So this is something now I want to do. I want, in essence, obviously specify the polygroup that I want to end up deleting. And in this case, I made something that has two holes. This is why I made a polygroup here and here of the same polygroup. So you can see these are the same polygroups. So now as long as I click on this green one, right, when I draw this out, ZBrush knows that green is the one that we want to delete and get rid of, right? And then now I can reposition this a little bit and then clear and clear, and then boom, there you go. Right? And you notice both holes have been closed because my mesh had the two holes that I could use to line up. Okay? So there is no way to just bake only one layer without a plugin. There's a plugin on ZBrush Central that allows you, that you'd have to go find. It's called the layer plugin. And that will allow you to bake one layer at a time. Okay, cool. All right. Let's continue on then. So again, I'm taking questions that you guys have asked already, and we're taking questions that you're all here with me, and we're kicking out ways for you guys to take advantage of certain features within inside of ZBrush to make these creations happen for you. That's what I'm focusing on today. So let's go on to a question here. Okay. So let's see. Hold on. My deck is not working. So let me just turn it on. Okay. So a question came in about chainmail. Like, how do you create chainmail in ZBrush? And then, i.e., this is great. And then, even though you've created it, how do you use it then? Like, what's the way to use it? Okay. So, yeah, Sandman 5000 Dream. Yeah. Okay. We can look at that. So let me start with this chainmail thing. This one's actually not too difficult. I'm actually just going to load a chainmail, okay, that we already have. Hold on, I'm going to, my Stream Deck, for some reason, their new update has really messed with my, hold on, my app that I use to call up these things. There we go. Now it's working. Okay. So the chainmail, let me load the chainmail that I have for you all. And that way you can see it's really not too complicated, right? So there you go. There's a piece of chainmail. So what you got to look at this, when you guys are ever going to try and create something like this that's a repeatable item, that's the number one thing you're going to think about is making this repeat over and over again, right? And so I will, when I'm making this, to make sure I'm landing this so that this is going to work, I want to make sure I see by using the gizmo. Okay? So when I use this gizmo, right, I'm doing this really quick with the control key, and I'm copying this to see that this lining up. So if we pull back a little bit more, I do something like this, and then I just repeat, right? Then I clear my mask, and then now I'm going to do it the opposite direction, and then repeat. And then you can see this is what we're looking for. We're looking for some kind of chainmail like this. So you can see this finished mesh is giving me the result that I want, right? And all this was created from was one torus, right? And so you can see it's just toruses stacked and then flipped the other way, right? So there's two ways you could go about, in essence, making this one. You can either create this first, just create this one first, right? And then duplicate it. So if we get a torus, let's go ahead now. Let's grab a torus. Let's go back to that ring. And again, once again, we don't need so much resolution. Hey, okay, we need a little bit more than that. I think 16 looks good. 16 seems to be my friend today. 16 seems to be the way I want to go. So I'll line along the Z, okay, and make this a mesh, right? So now that I have this, okay, this is now recreating this. In essence, in here, we'll just drop this down so you guys can see both angles here, right? And then now this is just a recreation. So number one, the best thing to do right now would be to create the angle here, right? And since I know I need to go 2 angles on this, right? I want to have 2 on here. I'm going to duplicate this, okay, this mesh. So I've got 2 subtools. And now I'm just going to straight up gizmo and go, okay, use the gizmo, rotate, boop, 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 boop. Let's go, we'll go 30 degrees, that one, and then this one's going to go 30 degrees the opposite direction, right? That way I've got them both directions now. I got what I need. Okay. Oh, Jerk Krzyzewski, you're in here, eh? All right. So it's just going to make things a little bit easier for me. And now it's just about repeating, right? So this blue one needs to be repeated. Now, the thing to think about, if you want this repeating, this gap that you're going to put in here is going to be important. Okay, so if you want to get very specific, if you don't want to use this for, obviously now, guys, all you have to do is copy one, right? And then this, you need to copy. And if you got to look, I just need to now copy this down this direction, right? And then there's that one, right? And then this one is the opposite, right? So now this is the one that we need to make that's going to be the linking, like it's going to create the link for us in essence, right? So we're going to need this to be moved over. Now, what's new to ZBrush, which we added this in, Dicecake, if you're still, I want to say 2021.5, if I remember right. So this December, last December. When I move now, I can hold the shift key and I can snap points, right? So you can see it's snapping. Instead of just freely doing this, I can hold the shift key. So I'd probably say you would want something that has a little bit of some kind of overlapping here a little bit, like something around in that world, right? And then now reset that. Again, hold the control key, bring it down, right? Because we need to make the links that need to happen here, right? So just keep pushing this down to where I would want that link to also happen, right? And then again, now this is going to be all about duplicating over, right? And creating something like that. Okay, so with this, you're looking at it and you're trying to figure it out. So something like this, what would be more beneficial, so that it's kind of like designing, right? With it. So let me put this back to where it was. All right, so what I'm saying is, instead of doing that, I can say array mesh would be a good way for me to do this. Okay, because I know I'm going to want, okay, one way. Okay, so it's already got, now that I've turned array mesh on, there's already a copy. So I'm going to say I want one to sit right about there. Okay, and I want a little bit of that overlap happening. So maybe a little bit further down, something more like, maybe more like that. Okay, then I'm going to append a new, and then now I can move this over. The benefit to this is I don't know yet maybe the gapping that I want to put here, right? I want to maybe just slightly touch right now. The benefit of me now using array mesh is I can go about doing this, so to the point where I can now select the other one here, right? Select this other subtool, right? And I can also put this in array mesh. Now, what can be nice about this is you can copy paste, right? So I can then down arrow key, copy this, up arrow key, and paste. And now these are sitting in the same space, in essence, right? It's just the opposite, right? And then I can start moving this over here. Okay, so I'm using now the gizmo to move this in space in the world. And this is allowing me, again, the benefit to this is I'm visually seeing if this is working or not working for me. Okay, and then now I want to say, you know, look at this and copy different stages. You can copy the different stages here, right? That's what's allowing me to do, is I copy the stages. So one's got 2 stages, as you can see, and the other one's got 1. So this is why I would append a new, go back to the transpose line, and because I've turned on this option right here, this is allowing me to use the transpose line, in essence, as my GUI, let's say, right? So this is the GUI that I have, and you can see now, you just make this, position this where you want it to make the same thing that I have going on here, right? And something like that. And then again, you can then after this go, okay, these are perfect. This is what I want. Okay, so you need to go to each in this case, each stage, you hit make mesh, and then go to the other one, stage 1, make mesh. Okay, or since I have multiple stages, this is a Lisa needs braces moment for you all, right? Okay, you could just click this convert BPR to Geo button, and then bam, it's automatically going to take all the stages of the arrays and make them good to go, right? So now I've got the 2 subtools that I need, right? Distant spherical shapes, and then now this I'd probably just merge down now that they're 2, and then now I've got this. This is what I'm looking for, right? Is having the ability that this would duplicate, give me the same thing, and then this way, right, give me what I'm looking for the same way, like going up, stuff like that, right? So once you have this made, what do you do with it? So the beauty of this is once you have the chainmail that you want, okay, this is where turning it into an insert mesh brush, right? So now it's an insert mesh brush. So now when I'm drawing this out, I'm doing this, right? But instead of doing that, I would come over here again and say, let's convert it to a nano. Nano. So you click nano, right? And this is now created. Sorry, I got to sneeze again, I think. Bless me. Okay. So now this is a nano. You guys can grab this, right? And then I can say, let's actually make this different polygroups as well. So I'm going to do a group by normals. So I get all these faces are one polygroup. All these faces are different polygroup. And now you just click and say, I've got insert nano. Because when you say create an insert nano, it's creating a new ZModeler brush is what it's doing. So if you hit the B key, let's see if you guys can see it. No, you're not going to see it. Let's see. There you go. Right here. Right? So you can see there's a new ZModeler brush. Right? There's the original. And then there's the new one. Okay? So then this is part of ZModeler. So instead of this, I say polygroup all. And then I just draw it out, right? And position these where I might want them. Okay, and right now I can see the surface. So because now I've drawn out a nano, I can come over here and I can tell it to hide the placement. And then I can keep adjusting these, finding the size that I want. You can rotate them. Like if you want to put a little rotation, and maybe it works it to be more of like that kind of look. And then this is the beauty of nano, is that we are having the ability to adjust after the fact, right? And if I put my size to 1, I can also tell them to fit the polygon face. I can tell them to fill the polygon face, right? For this particular scenario, I don't want that. I want proportionally because I need them to overlap, right? I need some overlap to happen to make it look like that. Right, so I'm using the size slider to find the right size. Okay. Got it? Does that make sense too? Okay. So someone said about a ring and a logo. There is a lot of ways to do this. There's so many ways to do this. Okay. I think we have some ring projects in here. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the chainmail thing because we're done with that. So here's a ring in here, right? So if you want to put a logo on this, I can already think of 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways to start going at this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to I'll throw a couple at you right now. Okay. So the first one that's just the easiest is just grab a brush, a sculpting brush. Is the person that asked that still here? Because if they're not, then I can move on. I want to make sure that person is still here. Okay. He's still here. Okay, so now what I can do, right, is just grab a brush and grab an alpha. Right, so this is my logo. I'm going to inverse the logo. Okay, all right, Sandman. So there you go. And then now just click and drag, right? And then I'm going to say, I want actually a drag rectangular stroke. And then give me this. Right? So I want to just drag out this alpha. And right now I have... Okay. Right? And then this can be controlled, right? With your focal shift as well. So I'm only getting 1. So I put this at a -1, right? And I'm getting multiples because I have lazy mouse on this brush. So if you turned off lazy mouse, even if you didn't have the focal shift, you would get the logo. Okay. Now the reason why I want the focal shift is if you look, you can see it's got like kind of an arcing to it. That's because the focal shift has an arcing. So if you put this at -100 when you draw this out, then you get this. Okay. So this is one way. This is just the quick way. All right. The one thing with this though is trying to position this where I want this exactly to go, right? It's a lot of trial and error, right? So another way to go about doing this, all right, would be to use something new in ZBrush and use one of our masking brushes that make a mesh, okay? And in particular, I would probably even use this mesh project brush. So here's the benefit, okay? I'm going to show the difference between the two, right? So this is going to allow me to make a surface based upon masking, okay? And I can't have subdivision levels. All right. So, and then you can see it's wrapping nicely around the surface. In this particular case, giving me a bevel, right? And we go back to the standard brush that I had selected and I do this. You can see it is going to wrap around the surface as well. Okay. But when I come to things like this, right, it's also going to wrap like this. But you can see it's also going inside the surface, right? And this, what if I change the logo? We change our mind. This technique is I'm actually deforming the mesh itself. This technique is creating a whole nother mesh for me. Okay. So to do a logo part of this, all I would do is, again, hold the control key. And again, I'm just going to stick with the mesh project brush. I'm going to switch my stroke type to rectangle, or R-E-C-T, rect. And then just grab the alpha again. The same thing. Okay, and if I grab the alpha, and I pull, you can see it's an alpha that's being dragged out. And then it's creating the shape for me. And then this is already a raised surface that I can actually readjust, right? And then this has got some beveling. So I can have stuff like this. I can change the shape, change the size. I can position it somewhere else, right? So you can see the benefit here for this. Okay? So the other thing that you're going to be able to do with this is drawing, right? When I do this, okay, and make this alpha, make it from the mesh, it's adding it to the existing mesh. Right? So if I actually turn on live booleans and do this same thing, okay, I can tell it not to add to this, right? So when I'm drawing it out, if I hold the shift key now, it automatically creates a new subtool for me, right? So now this shape's completely a different subtool. And you're going to see in here in a second here where it's beneficial for me to have this, okay? So where I control the beveling and the mesh resolution and everything else like that is in the brush palette. Okay, at the very menu at the very bottom, mesh modifiers, the make mesh modifiers. They're only going to be available when you hold down control and have one of those brushes selected. Is the only time they're going to make sense. So there's your beveling, there's your smoothness, and there's your resolution. And then your thickness is actually controlled by the Z intensity. So if I don't want something so thick, I could drop my Z intensity. And when I draw this out, you'll see it's not as thick. Okay, now, the benefit also live boolean to the person, Sandman, that you're also asking. If I draw this out, and then I hold the Alt key instead, because I have live boolean on, it's automatically cutting into the surface. So it's creating a new subtool with subtractive. It's already selected for me, right here, right? So I'm doing all that in one big swoop. So in essence, I'm creating a surface. I'm making it a new subtool and automatically setting it to subtractive. All with one click of just holding the Alt key. Right? And the thing you guys got to remember and you got to maintain here, as I like to always say here with people that I'm talking to, the minute I start drawing this out, look up here, look at me, look at me, look at me. Look, I'm not holding the keyboard anymore. You guys don't have to hold the keyboard. Once the brush is engaged, as long as my pen, in this case, I'm on my Cintiq, right, is down, right? So if you look, here, the beauty of me putting my camera on an arm, extreme close-up. There, right? So you can see my pen is not coming off, and I can still keep doing this, and then I can like hold a space bar, and I can move it around, right? And then again, Shift key is going to make it a new subtool and set it as union. The Alt key is going to make a new subtool and set it as subtractive. And Alt and Shift is going to make a new subtool and set it as that, which is excuse me, intersect, right? So let me get my camera back to me. Here we go. You guys don't need to look at that the whole time. There we go. There. Happy little trees. Happy little camera. Okay. Okay. All right. There you go. So it's another way. Okay. So there are other ways too, right? I can even do this same thing with Spotlight. Okay, so I could come in here, and you might like this way better, right? I can grab something like this, and then like here's our logo. And the benefit to this one, now the one thing that's nice about this, that this particular way of working over the other two is I can actually move this wherever I want. Then I can also snap it to portions of the mesh. And you can see when I snap, it tells you world center, see mesh mid, right? This is snapping to the center. And then there'll be a mesh center as well. So I can snap to the edges of these meshes, right? It's analyzing, and then boom, I know that is snapped to where I want it to be, okay? And then this works the same way, okay? So now that I have this open, we've got this little icon right here, which is a union. This is unioning the surfaces, but next to it, we've got a little camera. And so this is like making a new mesh. If I just click on this camera, it's going to automatically create that mesh for me. So now that mesh, you can see, is there. Okay, if I turn now, go back to this, and now let's go back to this. If I hold the Alt key and click on the camera, it's going to cut through the surface. So if I turn this off, oh shoot, I hit Shift X, sorry. Wrong shortcut. Okay, and you can see this is now going through the whole surface. So what's happening here, okay, is this is creating a mesh that's the height of this. I'll turn perspective off. It's the height of the ring, because the ring was the subtool I had selected when I made the mesh. But we've made this mesh have no spans in the middle by default. So it's an easy way for me to look at this and go, okay, I don't want this going all the way through. So I'm going to, let's switch back to my this. I'm going to move this so it's not cutting all the way through. So what I've done is I've masked everything but the bottom vertex points, and I'm just moving it up into the ring till I get to the depth that I actually want. Say something like that, right? And then for me, okay, I'm going to even throw a little bevel on this. So I'm going to come in here, okay, come to my crease, and there's a bevel option here. And I'm going to hold the control key and just add a bevel width. And then now it's also got a beveling to the surface that I want to. Right? And then I'm getting all this. Like, I like working this way because then I can just continue to remove, reposition things where I want it. I just stop where I'm happy with what I want. Okay? So there you go. There's 3 ways for you to go about this. Okay? Cool. Mr. Sandman 5000 Dream. Okay, Sebastian, you asked, how do you make one mesh with the cut of the Boolean? Are you asking how I did this again? With Spotlight, or are you asking with the masking mesh brushes? Which one are you asking? Give me a second. I got a little knock at the door while I'm waiting for you to answer. Okay. So, hold on. It's my wife trying to get a hold of me for something. I'm just telling her in the stream. Okay, just messenger. I forgot about that. Okay, so well, it's just one mesh with the cut. It's any. Okay, thanks. It's one mesh. It's just a subtool. It's whatever subtool. And then if you want it to happen to 2 meshes, right? So if I'm trying to understand what you're asking for, like if I have another mesh and I add something like here, we'll add a cube, right? And then now this cube is sitting here, right? Right? You can see that it's going to also cut into the cube. Right? It's a hierarchy system. In essence, this subtool that's set to a subtractive is sitting below the two subtools above it. So this is subtracting into this and this. That's what's happening. Does that answer your question? Can you give me any tip on how to work on curved brushes? We're going there next, George. We're going there next. Are you meaning how to apply it? Is that what you're asking? I did already cover it, Make Believe TV. Yes, it's the beginning of this video. Okay, well, how to apply it? There's multiple ways to do that. I did cover this in my last stream as well. So there's multiple ways to turn this into a mesh. Okay? There's more than one way. No worries. Okay? I'm going to show you just my preferred way. Okay? So I'm going to make this a new folder, actually. So let's call this dude. This is my preferred method for applying. Because in this way, I can do control applies. I can apply based upon a folder system. Okay? So what I can do now is just come here to this little gear. And now you just say apply right here. There's two options. There's Boolean folder or Boolean folder with dsdiv. The dsdiv stands for dynamic subdivisions. So if I'm using any mesh at all that has dynamic subdivisions turned on, I'm going to want to use this option, because then we will apply your dynamic subdivisions, okay, and then do the Booleans. This one's just going to do the Boolean straight up. So if you have dynamic subdiv, it's not going to look good. So I'll show you an example. So now all I do is just click this, and then the algorithm will run. And see, now it's running through that stuff, okay? Right, and so now this is creating the result, and then there's the result, and then this is one mesh. This is all one. See, everything is fused together now and put together. Okay? Does that answer your question then? That's going to be the best way, in my opinion, right, to do all that. But again, I did cover this in my last stream that was an Ask ZBrush Live too. I went through all the options of how to conform everything together, all right? You got it. Okay, so moving on, all right? Since it was asked, right? So this was actually a question that came in with the curves, okay? This was, how do I make an IMM tri-part brush have with different middle portions, right? So they wanted to have the ability to create an IMM brush with the parts, right? But them have be different in the middle. Okay? So this is pretty simple to do, right? It's not hard at all, okay? So I'm going to give you a brush that it's already doing so you guys can see what the heck I'm talking about right now. So let's grab a surface real quick. Let's stretch this out so we just have something to draw on. And I'm going to switch to my IMM curve brush, okay, which is right here. So I have an IMM curve, right? And then so when I draw this out, I can start drawing this out and doing, okay, I got a curve here, and it's got just stuff that's repeating on it. Okay, and what, for those that don't know, what an IMM curve brush with tri-parts is doing is something like, if I grab now this bracelet and tap, you'll see that the beginning and end is different than what's being repeated in the middle. And here you can really see it with something like this, right? So you can see this has got some kind of clip, and then it's just a repeating pattern, and then a clip at the beginning and the end. So what the person's asking us is, how do I make this middle portion have variations to it? Okay? So how do I get that to happen? So this brush already has this built into it, okay? There's already something you can do. So if I come back to the end of this brush, okay, I can click on this, okay, which is saying vine 1 of 4, right? And when I draw this out, all right, let's go bigger, okay, you can see that there is no exact similar thing here, right? It's actually swapping between these 4, right? This portion of the brush, and that's a key point, portion of the brush is set up to swap between. Again, our question was, how do I make IMM tri-part brush have different middle sections, right? That's what this person was trying to ask, is how do we do that? So in his example here, let me load another brush here. Let me load another brush for you all so you guys can see putting this in a different context as well. All right. Here's a brush that I made also taking advantage of this, which is like a belt. Here, I'm going to make this a lot bigger. Right? And you can see my middle section is not repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Okay? So this is allowing me to swap between the meshes. Okay? So this, as you can see up here on the top, this is an insert mesh brush that I've made 8 variations of the belt. Okay? And if we rip apart, let's take a couple of these. Let's go brush to mesh. Okay? All right? So there is, in essence, the first belt. Okay? And then here, there's alternate 2, brush to mesh. Here's alternate 3, brush to mesh. So you can see the only thing that these particular 3 have in common, okay, is there is the same beginning and same end, right? The beginning and end's the same, and the middle part is different, right? So if you look at these, the beginning and end are not changing, and only the middle's changing. But what also isn't changing is none of the topology where they link up. And so what I mean by that is this, where these are linking in the triparts is important for you. You want to make sure the vertex points line up. When you go look at this, you see it's got an opening hole, right? You want to make sure the vertex that are on this hole, you have the same exact vertex points on this hole. So that when you draw it out, they can fuse together. Okay? Right? So there you go. This is how you would do that. It's just creating separate pieces. So let's try one so you guys grasp it. Let's remake this kind of a little bit. Okay? Is that, or Grant, there's also all this is live every day. We've got, if someone can share the Z Classroom with him too, or her, that'd be great for Grant. Share the Z Classroom. It's all free videos. And I agree with whoever just put you. Don't try to gobble it all up. Okay? Right? So, Pedro, yes. Once you draw the curve out, you can randomize it again. Yes. It's all about the brush that you're making. Okay? Thanks, Daisuke. Right? So even again, going back to this curve IMM brush, right? Where are you? There you are. Okay. This is got the repeating triparts and swapping, right? But other parts of this doesn't have, like if I do the buttons, it's just repeating buttons. That's all it is. So this particular brush, right, has in essence different things happening inside the brush itself. Okay. So going back to this, let's just do some, all you do is make a base one, right? You're going to need a polygroup on the bottom, polygroup in the middle, and a polygroup on the top. So I made one belt, right? I just sculpted the belt with Z Modeler real quick, right? And then I made this, make sure, and broke it off into 3 pieces. So this is 1 piece, 2 pieces, right? And then 3 pieces is what I've done. Yes, it does work on an M1 MacBook Pro. Yes. We don't support the M1 itself yet, but you'd have to use the software that they have on their Rosetta to be able to use ZBrush on an M1. But yes, you can use ZBrush on M1. Okay? So, this is now just a simple duplicate, duplicate, right? And then now all you need to do, I've already got the beginning and end. You just go to this one, and as a matter of fact, let's take this. Let's get rid of the bullets. So I'm going to polygroup. I'm going to say auto group. And you can see the way I made this, everything's not even fused together, which is to my benefit here. And, right, you do stuff like this. Okay, re-polygroup that now. Inverse that. And then now get rid of the bullets on this one. Okay, so I'm just swapping between. So there's a different variations. Okay, because of time, I'm not walking you guys through every single click I'm doing what I normally would do. And then now for this one, let's just take the move brush and let's just mess with the middle. And I'm just going to go a little extreme so you guys can visually see the variations happening. Okay, so now what we have here is we have 3 different versions of the middle. Right? We've got the first one, we got one with no bullets, now we got one with distortion happening. Okay? So now all I have to do is turn all these on. They're all sitting in the same spot in space, number 1. Okay? And then I just hit, or go to brush just for the sake of the stream, create, and right here there's a button that says create insert multi-mesh. And what that's going to do is look at my tool that I have selected, and all these subtools are automatically going to get added, as you can see, as individual belts, in essence. And in this case here, we're going to go bigger, right? You can see the belts are there. They're just grabbing the subtools. Okay? And now here's where, to your question, Pedro, that you're asking, even just with these 3 items, I can change from repeating and swapping to not if I want to. So what I mean by that is I've got the first one selected now. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I don't want this. I want to put it along a curve. Okay, so I'm going to go to the stroke palette because think about it in the sense, how do I want to apply this to the surface? I want to apply a stroke first. Okay, and then give me the mesh, i.e. the tool. This is why we call our meshes tool. I'm literally going to use the mesh as a sculpting tool. Right? That's why it's called a tool. Okay, so the stroke is how am I applying it? Am I applying it with like a pencil? Am I applying it with a rake brush? You know, a scoop? Or am I using my fingers? Am I using my whole hand? Am I using a piece of wood? Right? Think of that sense. In essence, I want to draw out a curve first and then apply, right? So the stroke is applying a curve and then the mesh follows that. So I'm going to turn on curve mode. So now we've got a curve. So now you can see we are getting now this. I'll go a little bit bigger. I'll go bigger still. Okay, so we got now beginning and end, and we've got this repeating. Okay, so then I'm going to undo this, and now I'm going to come over to the brush. Okay, because in this case now, the mesh has become my brush. Like this physical belt that I was making is now the actual brush, right? So over here, we can modify the brush. Okay? So when I come over here, all right, I'm going to go to the modifiers because I want to modify this. And then I'm going to say, number 1, weld points. And by default, try parts is on. So now what weld points is going to do, when ZBrush keeps dropping that middle part, it's going to weld them together. Okay? And then in getting rid of this, you can either size it down, since you're asking, or size it up, depending on the resolution screen you're on. So this right here, these icons right here, with the double arrow, you can click on this and do this. And Daisuke is telling you right now that you can actually disable this. But the problem is you need to see this unless you're going to go the M key route. Okay, so to disabling it, you just go to your preferences. And in interface, IMM viewer. And maybe since you're asking about this, you can actually position this in different spots. So maybe this will help you too. You can position it on the left, the bottom, right, or top. That's how you do it. Okay? Okay, so back to this. Now what I want to tell ZBrush to do is, okay, I don't want you to just repeat this middle one. I want you to look and go, look at the next also number in line. 6 in line, 7, 8, 9, whatever number it is. In this case, I only have 3. So I'm going to say brush, okay? And right here, there is a variations slider. And this is going to tell ZBrush, with this one mesh selected in this one brush, I want a variation of 3. Okay, so what I want you to do is when this is selected, I want you to look at this one and the next 2 that follow it. Okay, and I need to tell it how to follow the next 2. That's why there's a variation selector. And this is saying cycle forward, cycle backwards, or be random. Right, so if I say random and I move it to 3, it's now going to tell this particular brush with this mesh selected, when you draw it out, just randomly switch between these 3 pieces of geometry. Right? So see, it's all random now. Right? It's just doing whatever it wants now for me. Okay? And then to Pedro's question, I can switch now to just this one and tap and see the random's gone. And now it's just the middle piece repeating because this one has its own modifying as well. Right? And so for this particular mesh in this brush, I don't have variations turned on, and I'm not telling it how to have a variations between the brush. All right, so that should answer all your guys' questions about that, and answer that question that came in, how you can create your own IMM brush tri-parts with the middle part swapping out. Okay, cool, good on that one. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so here's my next question. How do Matcaps work? Right, so this is a material thing. I'm going to show you guys a really quick way to make your own Matcap. 2 ways to do it as well. And let's just really quickly talk about the differences between the 2 materials that you're going to find inside of ZBrush. Okay, so again, how do Matcaps work is what we're looking at. So let's load something else. Let's load a model at least. Let's load something cooler than what we have here. Here, let's load the dog. Let's load Druss's Greyhound dog. Okay, so we got this dog, and this has got a material and some lighting in it. Okay, so a Matcap stands for material capture. All right, so there are 2 types of materials inside of ZBrush. So when you guys click on your material palette, there are materials at the top that say Matcap right here, and then there's standard materials. So here's the big difference, okay? This is definitely, Elisa needs braces. Look up here. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Okay? So this, okay, baking a Matcap bend, you're going to need a plugin that's on our website. There's a plugin that's called a Matcap Baker. There's no other real simple way to do it. You're going to need a Matcap Baker. Daisuke, since you're in here, can you go get that link for him, please? Okay, so dental plan, thank you. So Matcap materials have the light baked into it. Standard materials do not have the lighting baked into it. So why this is important is if you're going to try and use ZBrush to create your renders, which you can kick out some amazing renders in ZBrush. In all honesty, you can kick some really good renders, right? Especially for things where I'm just going to try to throw some on an Instagram, just want to make it look pretty cool, right? I'm not trying to go photorealistic, just a cool render or toon shading or different types of renders, right? There is a way for us to play with the lighting. So you go to lights, right? I got the first light, and as I move this light around, you can see the model is updating. It's updating because I'm on a standard material. If I switch to any Matcap material, so here, let's do shiny, right? It looks good, but now the light's just ignored. See? So nothing happens. So this is the big thing, okay? You can't, the lighting now just does nothing to your materials. It will still control your shadows, your ambient occlusion, your subsurface scattering, stuff like that. But now your model, nothing will change visually on the model material based, because all this material has lighting baked into it. Yes, and Matcap stands for material capture. Okay, so when we made this like 20 years ago, we created a tool that allowed you guys to make your own mat caps. But there is a really easy way to also create your own mat caps. But I want to spend a moment here showing you the mat cap material way of making it, just so you guys can understand what's happening here and how stuff is getting baked into the material. Okay? And then I'm going to show you a really easy way to make your own material, like super simple way, okay, to make your own materials. All right, so let's go first with the way of using the 2.5D Essence Matcap tool here. All right, so here's the steps that I like to do when I'm building this. All right, so this tool is going to allow us to create a material from an image. Okay, so I'm going to load in an image. I have an image selected, like kind of like a gemstone kind of thing. So I'm going to import. Let's import my image. Here, let's go to desktop. I already have one in there, but I have a better one, I think, that I want to use. Files for the stream. Okay, here we go. This one. Okay, so I'm going to do one thing now is I'm going to switch to a plane 3D. Okay. I'm going to make that a poly mesh. So now it's actually just a plane. Okay. And down here now in the tool palette, I want to assign a texture to this actual plane. So I just imported a texture through the texture palette. And then now texture map is about putting the image on the actual surface itself. So I'm going to click on this and boom. Now I've got the image on the plane. Now, the one thing that I don't want to do is have a material selected, because the material has shading parameters and coloring in it, right? If I was to switch to something like we all love our red wax, this looks very different now because the red wax material is also coming through on the mesh with the texture. So I'm going to tell ZBrush to have no material at all. So that's why I'll wait until that disappears. I'm going to switch to flat color. And then now this is just raw image. Okay, and I'm not making a part of the red wax army dice game. No way. Okay, and now all I need to do is just plop this down somewhere in my world. Okay, because I'm going to use this image to make something. Okay, so I'm going to hit Shift S as a snapshot, and now that image has been dropped to our 2.5D world. Okay, and now that's it. That's all I wanted that for. Okay, I just wanted to have the image. Like, you could also drop this image other ways too. Okay, I'm just, boom, I got it. Now I'm going to switch back to this Greyhound model. Okay, I'm going to make this take up a portion of the other side now here. And now I'm going to switch to a Matcap material. It's not really going to matter. However, there's parameters for each material. So I'm going to switch to this metal. Okay, and let's dock the material palette now. ZBrush ain't cool unless you're making sound effects, right? Because we're going to now live in this modifiers menu. Let me pull this up as much as I can. So it's above this little thing as well. Okay, so you can see this material, okay, is a Matcap material. So the settings you have here, okay, nice, activate, red wax, has a bunch of parameters to it. Okay, and the one big thing I want to highlight here is look at this image down here at the bottom. When I scroll over, you can see there's two spheres in the image. Okay, and if I select a different Matcap material, and this is going to be important, people, for what I'm about to show, you can see this one only has one sphere. Okay, so this is what makes your Matcap material. This is where it's getting the material information from. It's getting it from this image. When you have one sphere in this image, then this is channel A. So there's only two channels. There's an A and a B channel. All right. So now when you look at these sliders, you can see there's a saturation A and a saturation B, right? Monochromatic A, intensity A. You can see all these sliders. There's an AB, AB, right? So for this particular material, messing around with the sliders that have the B in it, right, isn't really going to do anything. So you can see hue B does nothing, but hue A will do some stuff, right? I'm changing the hue a little bit now on this, right? And then like intensity A is making intensity B doing nothing. But if I switch back to that other metal material, right? Because this has got 2 in it, when I'm playing with intensity A and then intensity B, you can see, look at the dog, right? So this is important to understand when you guys are going to create your own Matcap materials, okay? So I'm going to show you guys right now the way to just create a single spherical item. And I'll touch back on how to do the AB. Okay? Oh, the Who cassette tape reference. Who did that one? Right? So I've got now my image in place. I've got a model. And everyone, the reason why I'm bringing a model in, while I'm creating the material, I'm going to see what the material would look like on this model live in front of me. Right? The item on the left is where I'm going to make my material from, that jade looking image. Item on the right is going to be the model so I can see what I'm looking at. All right? Because then I'm going to now switch to a different Matcap material. Let's go back to one of these green ones. Okay? And in essence, what I'm going to do now is replace this image and make my own image. All right? Zygnot, I just covered what the difference was with the 2 channels. And AB. Like, for example, okay, so here with red wax, since everyone's asking for the red wax army, there's difference. If you look at the spheres, see, they look very different. The one on the left is A, so you can see it's a really bright, shinier material. The one on the right, there's no speck at all in it, right? It's soft. So that's why this material looks like clay, is because the cavities are getting the material on the right, and all the raised surface is getting the material on the left. Right? That's what's happening here. Okay, so you're getting the sphere on the left is all raised surface, sphere on the right is all lower. So this cavity slider, see if I pump the cavity, and see I can actually, detection, I can swap it if I want to. So you can see now the dog's got opposite. And that means then, like for example, I can go here, B, and make only the B cavity be a completely different hue. And then make A be a completely different hue, right? So you can see, you can take this beautiful red wax, and you could probably get close to bronze looking just this, right? And then A material is the sphere on the left, B right. Okay? So, perfect. Got it now? Okay, so I'm going to select I'm going to select a material that just has a single sphere right now. Okay? Right? So now what I'm going to do is switch to the Matcap. Right? I'm going to click on that. It's as ZBrush is asking you, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you want to do? You're coming out of 3D mode and you're going to go in 2.5D mode. I want to do that, so I'm going to say switch. So I am no longer in 3D mode. So I can no longer rotate this model, move the model, or anything like this. Okay? But now what I have selected is, instead of the model, I've got this. So this is going to allow me to click anywhere in ZBrush and pull color and lighting information with one click. So the first click's your most important, one of your most important clicks, because the first click is going to establish, all right, what color base do you want in your material? What base color do I want? Okay, so looking at this green, I'm going to go with this green. And you see there's a sphere that pops up. Right? And when I let go, boom. This has now got, and here, we'll turn the cavity off. Right? This has now got a new sphere being created. See that? So now you've got a new sphere that's just a solid green color. And what I've done, if you move my cursor around, there's a marker here now. See, there's a marker right there. Right? So if you want to really see them, go to Preferences. To see them better, go to Marker and make your radius all the way up to 1,000, and it'll be easier to see that marker. Okay? And so these markers are what create the materials. So now I can say, all right, well, I want to bring in a light color. I'm going to click, and then see I can drag, and you can see it's also bringing not only the color, it's bringing the lighting information as well from the image. So I'm going to say I'm going to go like that. Okay, boom, look, it's coming to life, right? And then I say, okay, so what you do is you put your marker and you put it facing towards which one. So I'm going to add a little bit of more darker color in there. Ooh, let's grab some of this color. And I'm going to, yeah, from the bottom, let's bring a, over here now, the other side, let's bring a little bit darker shade. So I got light coming this way, shading coming this way. I like this green. Let's bring that color in too. Okay, perfect. You know what? I don't like it. I want to delete it. Boom, deleted. Right? So when you guys make a marker, okay, like say I do this, and you don't like what it did, hold the Alt key and then just tap on the marker and then it's gone. Okay, so I kind of like where I'm sitting, in all honesty, with this right now. It's pretty good. So I want to, though, make this have some, you know, specularity to it. Right? And now if you look on my image, you can see what's starting to happen here. A spherical shape's really starting to come to play. Right? So let's make another color on the bottom. There you go. And then on this side, let's make this from this side. Let's bring that in. Yeah. Right? So you can see what's happening here, right? That spherical shape is being created for us by me clicking and then just moving my cursor around. And so now if I want to add some kind of specularity to this, okay, I'm going to find a part that I like where there's maybe some speck. Right? So let's go with this right here. Now, yeah, let's go with this one right here. All right? And I'm going to now add some specularity to my sphere. Right? And I'm deciding, well, how much speck do I really want? I'm going to add a little bit of some speck. Okay? And let's do one where it gets maybe from the top. Let's add a little bit more punch specularity there. And let's add some more here. Let's add a dot speck and make it really shiny. Right? You can see now I'm adding specularity points of interest here now. Okay? And then I can even grab this and grab a green and make a green speck if I want to. So you can see what I'm creating here now through here. Right? And how I'm doing this is when you guys click, okay, you can see I'm just moving around, telling it kind of, okay, the light's coming from this direction, it's coming from this direction, what direction is it coming from? But if you hold the control key and kind of move your hand back and forth like this while you're holding the control key, that's creating the speck. I kind of like what does that look like? It's not bad. Right? This is why you can see on the right side why I wanted to have a mesh selected before I changed to Matcap. And then there you go. I am now creating a Matcap material over here, but it doesn't end there. You can now play with all these settings as I'm creating, right? So I can even say changing the hues and stuff. I can play with this. And because it's only one sphere, the A sliders is really the only sliders you want to play with, right? So this is completely changing the hue now. I'm going to go back to my play with your saturations. If you want more saturations, do you want more intensity? Okay. But what you can also do, because we're making the Matcap, let me pull it up here so you guys can see it. There's a menu down here called Matcap Maker. And look, you've now got all the, like, do you want to go more glossy? So see, I can make it way more glossy if I want to. Or I can drop the glossy way down and not have it be so glossy. Maybe I want to go more that realm. Then you can have more refinement to this, which is just capturing more of the information. I can find where I want. Do you want to play with the overall intensity of the entire material? Do you want to drop it? Do you want to play with the overall saturation? Do you want to add a backlight to this? Right? So it's adding a light in the back. And I'm looking at my model while I'm changing this. There's more contrast, less contrast, more specularity. Like you can get crazy specularity, right? This is all because I'm making a material right now. right? So all this is the playing right now because I'm still got Matcap tool selected and I'm making this material. All right, if I wanted a B material, right? Because right now, looking at our modifiers, right? We've only got one sphere. Okay? So if I wanted a B, this is where this happens. You hit B, and now ZBrush is like, oh, you want a B? So now when I click, right, it's making a secondary B, and it's using now all. So I'm going to say A is done. So now let me start deleting some of these, because I don't want all of these to be in my B, as an example, right? And you can see all this is changing now. Right? So I'm having these controls. This little B options tells me if when I'm adding a material, right, I also want an AB happening here. Does that make sense? And then now, obviously, if I turn on cavity, I can see have a difference cavity between these. So I can have different intensities in the cavity. Right? And then I can say, let's change the hue of B now to be a little different maybe. Right? It really opens up a lot of stuff for us. And if I turn off cavity detection, it's just pretty much not going to do too much with A and B. This cavity detection is what's transitioning between the A and the B. Okay, so you can see you can get a very unique, different type of material. Okay, and that's how you do it from an image. When you're done and you're happy with what you have, okay, just make sure you don't, sorry, excuse me, have this selected anymore. Switch to your model, Control N, drag it out, and then now there you go. Now you're back to, and you can have the whole material, and there's my material I made. Right, and then now you just save it out, and there's my new material. Now you go to at the top of your material and you hit save. Cool. So I hit save and then I save this where I want. I will tend to save these so I can pull them up in my Lightbox. So go to Pixologic. Let's see, ZBrush 20. And I'm going to put it in Z Materials. So here, let me pull this over for you. Right? So I will tend to make these and put them right in here, Z Materials. Okay. And I'll just call this Jade. Stone. Hit save. And then this way, the reason why I like this, if I open up Lightbox and I go to Materials, I've always got that material here for me. Okay? But the easiest way to do all this, people, let's grab a different material. And you notice we're saving over top the existing materials right now. Also, it's a thing to keep understanding. So let's grab a totally different material. That's pretty much everything's at the defaults right now. And we've got an image here. People, you could go to any renderer you want and just render out an image with a sphere. And you can bring that. So in essence, if I have particular lighting, they say I'm doing in Maya or Keyshot that I really like, and I want to bring, in essence, even that lighting information over here to ZBrush, this is a good way to maybe even do it through a material base. Okay? So I can now just say, click on and say import. So for example, I made a image, okay, inside a Keyshot. I went to Keyshot and rendered out a sphere. That's it. Okay, so here, let me pull this up for you guys. I'm going to get to files for the stream. And I don't have Photoshop installed on the system right now. So right here, there's a sphere. Okay, when I click on this, boom, there's my material from Keyshot. This is from Keyshot now. So the lighting information I'm getting on this and all the color information is all actually coming from Keyshot, not ZBrush. Because it's material baked in, right? So this image is giving me the result. So this material, this is what that material looks like in Keyshot. Now, this is definitely, look up here. Lisa needs braces moment. Lisa needs braces. Lisa needs braces. Lisa needs braces. Okay? Looking at this, okay, you need to make sure that the sphere is being clipped at least a little bit on all four sides. It doesn't need a lot. So I can't, here, we're going to have to do this again. Okay, so what I mean is this area right here, 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 and here. Right? Notice my sphere is not a perfect sphere in this image. It's clipped just a bit right there, 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 and there. So you need to make sure that is also done on your image. Okay? So that's the key thing. So in essence, guys, you could go to Photoshop and do this. You could just grab a thing, make a sphere, and then just color how you want. You can go to any renderer that you want to. Have a sphere, throw the lighting, throw the material information you want on it, and as long as you render it out, and you don't need it to be big, you can see this is 500 by 500 pixels. It doesn't need to be ginormous. And then just make sure it's clipped on all four sides, and then select a Matcap material inside of ZBrush, and then just replace it. Now for the double spheres, just do the, make sure, we'll go to this, just make sure it's clipped in the 3 areas. So you can see this image size is 627 by 336. It's just doubled, right? And the spheres, the one on the left is clipped a little bit on the top, the left side, and the right, and the bottom side. It's not clipped on the right side because there's another sphere on the other side. So you could also do this same thing in an image. You guys can just literally make this image and throw it into ZBrush and have the double spheres that you want. So you do not have to just use that Matcap ability, right? And again, this is coming from the question, how do Matcaps work? Was the question that we were talking about. And I just showed you guys now 2 ways to make a Matcap material. I used the original Matcap Maker tool, and then I just showed you straight up images. Obviously, the easiest way is straight up an image. Not going to be difficult at all. And then there you go. Just remember, if you're going to use a Matcap, anything you change in your lighting is not going to update. Okay? It's not going to update. All right, so we have time for one more question. I'm going to move on to this one. How do I make a rolled up map came through? So how do I make a rolled up map inside of ZBrush? Right, so let's quickly, this is an easy one. This one's actually really easy to do. All right, so I'm going to, let's reload our projects. I'm going to start from fresh. Okay, we'll just start with her. Okay, and we only need the clay buildup. All right. So this is how easy it is to make something rolled up. I'm actually going to use our dynamics to do this. Okay, so we have now dynamics. Okay, inside of ZBrush, which is a cloth ability in essence, or using it for other things as well. Okay. Come back to this question. Wait. If we create a Matcap from a sphere image, but we do not clip the sides, make sphere. If you don't clip the sides, whatever the background element of that image gets put into the material. Try it. You'll see what I mean. Okay, if you do not clip the spheres, okay, and transparency PNG, we don't accept that in ZBrush right now. So a PNG transparency is not going to matter. If that's the route you're going right now with this, it's not going to matter. I would just do a PSD file. Okay, so all you need to do to make a rolled up map in this case, or think about maybe a yoga mat, or maybe a blanket or something that's going to be on a character, it's on a backpack, maybe they're traveling the world, they're traveling through Europe. Right? Here's how easy this is going to be for us. All right, I'm just going to grab a plane again, because that's all I need. Boom. Right? And I'm going to make that a poly mesh. And I don't want to look on the plane this way. I'm going to look at, I want the plane to be facing Y for me. This is just a personal preference. So I'm going to go 90 degrees in the Y. So the plane faces are facing upward now. Okay? So this is all we have. It's just a plane. Nothing big or cool or crazy here. I'm going to turn off this. I'm going to turn on dynamic subdiv by hitting the D key. Okay, turns on dynamic. So Shift D turns it off. D turns it on. Dynamite. Yeah, you wouldn't just have black on the edge. You'd have black inside the material. Try it. You'll see what I mean. It's probably not going to give what you're thinking. But doing it, we already have, like, if you're trying to think like an outline material like this, we already have one. So just take this image and just change it, right? So if you look at this material, we have an outline material, and you can see it's still clipping, right? So even if I have the model selected, see? So if I made that big white border or less, then you'd get a different outline. So you can see in that image what it's doing, right? If we go to material, because you were talking about an outline. So you can see it's still it's still cutting it. I would not recommend taking the background image and putting it. You're not going to you probably won't like what you're getting, most likely. Maybe what you're trying to do in your head right now, I don't think, at least I think where you're trying to go, it's not going to work the way you think it's going to work, I think. All right, so back to this. So again, we're trying to do, how do I make a rolled up map? Or in this case, it can be many things. So I've got a plane, I've turned on dynamic subdiv, and now I'm just going to turn on some thickness, because this should have some thickness to it. I would want a little bit of thickness to it, regardless. Maybe you want to go wider with your thickness. I don't know. Whatever way you want your thickness to be. Okay? I'm for the sake of just streaming, for you guys to be able to see what's going on, I'm going to go a little bit thicker than a map. Okay? Just so you can visually see it. All right? And I'm going to turn off perspective so you can see that right there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mask off one portion, in essence, have something like this, where everything's masked off, but this little portion, if we turn dynamic off, it's literally 2 rows, right? These 2 rows are unmasked. Everything else is masked. Okay? So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to create a mask like this. All right? And now, in ZBrush, I want to use the dynamics. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my transpose from the regular transpose to the transpose that's made for cloth purposes. Okay, so there's a transpose cloth here. Right, so I'm going to click on that. And now this is going to allow me to move this around, and see, it's going to act more like cloth. See this? So as I move this around, it's acting like cloth. And then you can see the masking is keeping it in place. Okay, so that's the first thing. I got to switch to the gizmo. That's my cloth gizmo. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is I want to tell ZBrush, okay, I've got the surface masked, but I don't want you to treat the mask like as an absolute mask. I want you to treat it as more of like there's a mask. So I'm going to switch here in the dynamics to on mask. So you notice I can now move the rest of it. But because on mask is on, we are looking at the mask in a different way and transitioning the motion that I'm going to do now here with this. Okay? And what I want to do now is say, all right, I want to take this and I want to start moving. You can start seeing what I'm going to do here, right? I can start wrapping it on itself. But before I start wrapping it, I want to tell ZBrush, okay, this is a surface that there's nothing else in the world right now. It's just a flat plane that's got a mask on it. And what I want to tell ZBrush now to do is I want you to collide with itself. So that's why we have a collision slider here. Okay, so there's a self collision, and next to that there's a floor collision. If you guys can't see where I'm at, I'm over here right now. Look in the top left corner. All right, and then now all I'm going to say is let's put some self collision on it. So I'm going to do at least 2, and then now all you guys need to do is pull on this and then just start slowly wrapping it on itself. And there you go. Pretty simple. Right? And the more and more I wrap, the tighter and tighter it can get and wrap on itself, right? So I started getting a little crazy. So let me undo. And again, just click. Make kind of big swoops. Don't try to be really tight like that, right? Make a nice big swoop. And don't try to go super fast when you're doing this, right? Take your time. Make sure you go way out. See, I'm making big swoops. Right? And right now, this is also colliding with the floor. So I'm going to turn off the floor collision because I definitely don't want it colliding with the floor right now. I just want it colliding with itself. Right? And then once you start getting the wrap, then you start making a little bit smaller loops. And then there you go. right? Boom, wrapped. Right, and if I turn off dynamic, it's a plane. It's just a plane that's been flipped, and right now I went the opposite direction. So let me flip it, right? And then there you go. Flip it back, turn to my dynamic. And now if I like what I got, I hit apply, and then there you go. I've got a surface. It's got also polygrouping, right? So there's different polygroups here. So this has got a polygroup, this has got a different polygroup, and the middle's got a different polygroup. So now I've got an actual mesh. Right? So there you go. There's that question. Again, we're trying to, that question came through, how do I make a rolled up map? This would be the fastest way to do it. Right? So the key thing here is remembering you got to turn on masked on, and you got to make sure you're telling it to collide with itself. If you don't turn on colliding, it's just going to do really nothing for you that you want. Okay, so Dr. okay, so you're answering somebody. Okay. All right. Let me look through. What other questions you guys have that came through? I got to get going soon, so I want to switch to just your guys' questions right now and see if I missed anything. I know Dr. DePresso, you're in here. Thanks for helping me out. Dice K, you're in here too. Thank you. Learning anatomy. It's a lot of doing. There's some great anatomy books. There's anatomy books. Elliot Goldfinger's book is a must-have if you're trying to learn anatomy. 100%. And then there's anatomy for artists, which they use ZBrush to do the entire book, actually. Let's see. I own it. I own both books, actually. So here is the Elliot Goldfinger one. This is a must-buy. If you want to learn anatomy, this is a must-buy. That's what this book looks like. This is Elliot Goldfinger. Okay? And it's called Human Anatomy for Artists. If you just do that and remember Goldfinger, you'll find the book on Amazon or anywhere else. I don't know how much it is these days. And then I got another book. Actually, I think it's in my office at the big office. I don't think I have it here with me. Yeah, I don't have it here with me. Another good book. Since you're trying to learn anatomy, the biggest thing I see with people with anatomy is they're trying to learn anatomy. They're just sculpting in like a simple pose. This is a good book. So you can see anatomy in motion. Okay? Anatomies for Sculptris is the one I'm talking about that I have, but I just don't have it here with me in this office. Okay? And then there you go. Right? And then this is old. This has just got still shots of people walking, jumping, running. This is especially when you're going to want to go pose your character. This is a book I pull out all the time, right? Especially when I get to that point. Okay? Okay? Hold on. I saw some questions come through. Let me get to those questions now, too. Chris, you're asking, my issue is wanting to make teeth that are part of one subtool. There's multiple ways, again, to go about this, Chris, for sure. Okay? You can just make it one subtool by... Where did my pen go? There it is. Right? So if I grab something like this, okay, just use insert mesh brushes. So make a pocket mouth in here. I'm just doing something very fast here, right? So just grab a brush, right? You can grab anything, right? In this case, I can grab this, right? And then I can just draw them out and say they need to be it's going to be a spherical shape, and just draw them out. Right? And then if I want those sitting in more in the gums, then here in the brush palette, I've got a depth slider, and this embed here, just knock this down some, and when you draw it out, you can see they're already sitting inside. So obviously, if you make some meshes that already look like teeth, and that's what a lot of people do, and you can find brushes you can buy that already have people have already sculpted all the teeth for you. And then this is all you got to do. And then these are all one subtool right now. Right? So this is all part of one subtool right now. And then if I want to adjust the teeth, in this case, and not even using masking, I would use this brush, and I can actually adjust the teeth and make these become teeth really fast. See? And all I'm doing is I'm using the move brush, but I'm not using the move, I'm using move topological. right? There you go. You got teeth starting to happen. Okay, that's one way. Let me split these off. Okay, and then the other way would be if you got smart about this, right? Same thing that we've already talked about. I'm just gonna actually I'll just stick with this. Okay, just now put this along a curve. And so when you draw, you're going to get these spheres populating along the curve. Right? And then as you go there, just keep going. Right? And then so just like we did with the swapping out of like that belt, you can have molars, and then canines, and then it just swaps through. Okay? Just for your eye, just load a tool that already has an eye. Here, just all these human characters already have eyes. Just use one of these. Right? So there's this one. There's one in the demo head as well. It's different. Like, well, actually, that's the same one. But there are some also in Nick Zuccarella's model. Has an eye. The demo soldier has an eye. This model has an eye. Right? And this one's different, see? Just take this and then just use this eye. There's your eyes right there. See? Okay, this is a good one. This is normally what I would do sculpturally. I can just reuse some of the pieces, right? That are already in here, shipping in ZBrush. Here's another one. Right? See, there's another one. That's the route I would go. Okay, as far as your eye question goes. The other question hold on, I saw another question come through. You can already do that. Tai Lee, you can already do this. So you said, can you develop a brush that you can apply at any length of alpha or a single texture? Cross and make a haircut. You can already do this in ZBrush. That was actually one of the simple new features as well. So this is 100% possible already. Okay, so there's now brushes called Curve Alpha or Alphas. There's two of them. It's Curve Alpha and Curve Alphas. So it's just grab an alpha and then boom. That's it. So whatever alpha you want, you just grab, and then you can use your Z intensity to flatten it more. There you go. But we also shipped brushes that were made specifically like for hair card. There's curve flat snap. So curve flat's just gonna draw out, let me go smaller. Draw out this. It's just flat planes, like a hair card. Right? And then the other one, the snap one, is going to stay snapped to the surface. So there's brushes already on for what you want to do right there. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm just making sure. There was something else I saw that I wanted to answer in the comments. Can't find it now. But Lee, that should answer your question, yes, for you. A move brush that takes collision? No. Collision in the sense you want like a rigid collision, you can't do that. No. But a move brush can be used as your transposed cloth brush as well. Right? If you're using dynamics, the move brush then when you're moving, it's going to collide with the other subtools. But we're not going to maintain the mesh. It's going to squash it, right? So any sculpting brush will work with the collision, but you need to have collision volume involved. And then if you switch to move, then it'll do it. MJ Sculpts, yes, you would want to download a plugin. Z Repeat It would probably be the best one for you. There's a plugin on our website that allow you can do whatever you want to tell it to repeat to every subtool, in essence. Whatever you want. Okay, and Alex is jumping in with the clean tool. ZRepeat it that we have on our page also does that. So I go to Pixologic. All right. Okay, so if you go here to pixologic.com, under support resources, there are about another 14 plugins here. So if you go to ZBrush plugins, okay, there are more plugins here for you too. So these are the ones that ship with ZBrush at the top. And if you keep scrolling down, now there's more here. There's a ring one, utility. There's a startup one. This is the one you were talking about, clean tool utility. But there's ZRepeat it. There's a script that allows you to repeat to just visual subtools, all subtools, whatever you want. So I download this, and in essence, you're creating your own macro that will repeat to all subtools. Okay? And then here's the Matcap baker for the person that was asking. That'll allow you to bake out the matcaps onto a texture and everything for you. Okay? So see, there's more plugins here. All right. Lucky, you would have to send us in a video, and I would recommend when it happens to you, make a video and send it into our support so that we can help you that way. It's too hard to try and help you this way. We need to see what's going on. It could be something in particular that's happening to you. All right, guys, unfortunately, I got to get going. Thank you for watching. Hopefully see you guys next time. So let me know, as always. Share any questions you have. Hashtag AskZBrush on Twitter. That's where I'm going to get all these. So again, hashtag AskZBrush is where I'm getting in all these questions. And of course, while we're live together, I'm getting all the questions as well. I really appreciate you all tuning in and watching my crazy wackiness. Please always stay in channel. Daisuke's been in here. He's a member of the Pixologic team. He streams on Thursdays. He just streamed yesterday. So come by, fire away questions at him as well. We're happy to help in any way we can. Thank you all for using ZBrush, being a part, and you all have a good day. I'm Paul Gaboury with Pixologic.